The gleaming chrome coliseum thundered with a storm of howls, shrieks, and guttural chants as the interstellar games neared their climax. I, Captain Alex Holden of Earth's contingent, sat in the assigned human enclosure with my squad. Around us stretched an ocean of alien beings, bulbous, scaled, and some glowing faintly with living light. It had been 10 cycles since Earth earned a place in the once-in-a-millennium tournament. 10 cycles of embarrassment and carefully orchestrated losses. "Remember humans," sneered Gorblack, the Gorgani announcer, his gem-like eyes glittering. "The scoreboards do not lie." Indeed they did not. Our name clung to the very bottom. 0 points, a harsh contrast against other civilizations flaunting scores in the thousands. These contests were forged to push the limits of body, intellect, and cultural spirit. Races where our two-legged stride seemed comedic, riddles our minds struggled to solve, and ceremonial trials that exposed our painfully basic heritage. We were little more than tokens, admitted to satisfy some cosmic diversity charter. Now begins the last trial, the scavenger run of Shire. Gorblack bellowed. Groans rolled through my teammates. The run was infamous, an endurance gauntlet across the host world's most brutal terrain. In past cycles, humans rarely lasted beyond the opening hour. Yet this time, something restless stirred inside me, an uneasy fusion of dread and anticipation. My eyes landed on Jack Tripwire Johnson. A wiry man, always with untied laces and a shadowed jawline, hardly an athlete's vision. But in his gaze glimmered a sharpness that gave me pause. As the horns blared, the swarm leapt forward. The Gorgani bounded on 8 stone-plated limbs, charging ahead. The Avens of Polaris Prime soared skyward, wings refracting light in impossible rhythms. We humans, meanwhile, tripped and stumbled over jagged volcanic ridges, clumsy caricatures while the others vanished into the distance. The first checkpoint loomed, a glowing energy barrier wedged in a fissure. Agile species slid through nimbly. Others used organs attuned to hidden paths. Humans. We stood baffled. 10 teammates already sat limping, pride wounded. "Seems these primates can't grasp obstacles at all," Gorblack jeered, his voice echoing across the stands. Then Jack shuffled forward. I knew his past. An Earth parkour addict, an adrenaline hound addicted to cityscapes. Facing the unyielding wall, he simply shrugged, pulled a twine-wrapped grappling hook from his belt, and with practiced motions flung it across. In moments he scaled the rope, disappeared through the fissure, and reappeared grinning at the next marker, waving like a prankster. A ripple surged through the Colosseum, half disbelief, half reluctant awe. "A mere fluke," Gorblack barked, though his booming tone trembled with unease. The race pressed on. At each trial, humans broke expectations with sheer inventiveness. Emily Chen, once a computer coder, unraveled a complex security puzzle with an old algorithm she'd built for a video game. When a vast chasm blocked the way, rival species sought bridges, wings, or debate. But our team gathered, whispering and pointing toward a distant outcrop. With quick scavenging, they built a rough catapult from branches and torn fabric. Jake, a massive ex-linebacker, climbed into the sling. With a thunderous snap, he hurtled across the gorge, crashing down with a rib-shaking thud. "Rule 37, Gorblack announced tightly. "No external propulsion." He paused as the humans reset the device. "Amended. Applies only to non-organic propulsion." Step by step, the mood of the Colosseum shifted. Where once there had been ridicule, now there was tension, expectation. The humans weren't following the script. The games were built on hierarchy and predictability. But Jack, Emily, Jake, and the rest weren't polished or graceful. They were messy, chaotic, unorthodox, and absolutely effective. By the final stretch, the murmur of a human victory spread even among alien dignitaries, impossible as it seemed. Across the delegations, I saw Gorblack quiver with fury beneath his iridescent scales. The Hunt of Shire had been his invention, crafted as an unwinnable stage for human defeat. To watch us nearing the finish line, not by brute strength but through cunning and sheer defiance, was a direct insult to the very hierarchy of the games. The final challenge seemed simple yet held cruel trickery. A towering spire carved with alien sigils perched atop an obsidian crest. Whoever unraveled the code and touched the summit would claim victory. The elder species, with millennia of archives filled with languages and scripts, were confident. For humans, it was expected to be a hopeless chase, or so they believed. Then the realization struck me. Jack Tripwire, with his sloppy gait, loose laces, and unkempt look, that wasn't incompetence. His untied shoes weren't neglect but sensors, makeshift tripwires feeling the subtle vibrations of shifting alien dialects. Emily, hunched over her notes, wasn't coding at all. She was sketching, capturing every contour and flourish of symbols with the precision of a master artist. And Jake, whose every step shook the ground, was the final piece. I watched as Jake strode to the base of the monolith and bellowed a primal roar, the shock wave rattling stone. The glyphs pulsed, shifted, and rearranged. Jack shouted, "It's reacting to sound." One by one, Jake howled specific tones, imitations of rare birds he'd studied on a forgotten Earth colony. Each call reshaped the glowing runes, while Emily carefully mapped their order and meaning. The crowd of aliens fell silent, baffled, as the humans cracked the final cipher. With a final surge, Jake scrambled up the living monument, glowing handholds forming beneath his grasp. He slammed his palm onto the peak just as a swarm of reptilian rivals reached within arm's length. Silence crashed across the arena. An age of alien dominance had just fractured. Not even Gore Black nor the Galactic Council spoke, their faces etched with disbelief and a dawning terror. I couldn't stop smiling. Not the polite grin of diplomacy, but something feral, victorious. Every dismissal, every laugh we'd endured, echoed in my mind. Earth had finally refused to play the fool. "Announce the results, Gore Black," I demanded, my voice carrying across the Colosseum. For a long breath, his jeweled eyes narrowed, then he croaked in a flat tone stripped of drama. "The champions of the Hunt of Shire, and thus the victors of the Galactic Games, are the humans of the Sol System." A roar of cheers erupted. Even aliens who once mocked us joined in. Hesitant at first, then swelling, unstoppable. For wasn't it exhilarating to see the impossible unfold? To witness the outcast rise against a rigged design. Humans were no longer the jesters. Bathed in the spotlight, we had claimed our place. And though the council glared with calculating eyes, I felt it, that ripple of uncertainty that precedes upheaval. In the days after the unthinkable triumph, invitations poured in. The Galactic Trade Guild, once closed to us, sought analysis of our unique logistics strategies. Prestigious academies offered grants to study the minds that turned parkour and twine into weapons of ingenuity. Most curious of all was a discreet request from a hidden arm of the council itself. Humans asked to advise their former overseers on adaptive creativity under hostile conditions. Jack, Emily, and Jake, the accidental heroes, were swept into dinners and symposiums across the stars. They faced puzzled scholars, frustrated merchants, and the stone-eyed council itself. Yet beneath it all lingered a truth no one dared deny. The laughter had ended. One afternoon, beneath chandeliers on the Sharian moonbase, I cornered Jack amid tables of delicacies gathered from half the galaxy. He was the same scruffy figure, tripping over his own feet. "You knew, didn't you?" I asked, spearing a strange fruit. "The laces, the scribbles, all of it." He didn't deny it. Just shrugged, that crooked grin spreading. "Call it a hobby. Turns out the flaws they mocked, they're damn useful." We looked across the chamber. Emily, surrounded by scholars, lectured on something called lateral thinking. Jake, booming with laughter, charmed investors with ease. We weren't the spectacle anymore. We were the wild card, the unpredictable element in a galaxy that thought it had calculated everything. I came to realize the Galactic Games were never the real prize. Back on Earth, they became a spark, the glorious what-if that ignited a revolution. News of the Great Reversal, as the media named it, spread like wildfire. Disbelief gave way to swelling pride. Humanity hadn't just been tolerated in the cosmic order, we had outsmarted it, and on our own terms. Suddenly, that fragile blue world on the rim of the spiral arm didn't feel so small anymore. Life on Earth shifted in subtle but profound ways. Children who once dreamed of playing on alien sports teams now studied ancient Earth scripts and symbolic logic. Art once dismissed as pointless now hung in galleries as works of code-breaking and abstract strategy. Tripwire laces became the latest fashion trend. Clumsiness itself turned aspirational. But the deeper change radiated from the heart of government. With proof of humanity's hidden potential undeniable, rivalries long entrenched began to ease. Nations reached, hesitantly at first, toward shared projects and joint problem-solving. After all, no one was better at turning weakness into unexpected strength than us. Even the Galactic Council, I heard, was in turmoil. Whispers of factions arose, between the old guard clinging to order and others intrigued by the human disruption. Some feared us, but others felt something intoxicating in our defiance, in our reckless ability to upend a rigid system. When I was summoned as a consultant, flown to Galactic headquarters aboard a vessel still smelling faintly of alien menageries, the weight of it struck me. The council chamber loomed, colossal and ancient, built upon millennia of dominance. And there I was, Alex Holden, captain of a once-laughed-at delegation, standing where humans were never meant to stand. "State your intent, human," thundered the Gorgani head counselor. I drew a breath. Countless eyes bore into me. Was there less scorn in their gazes now, or was that my wishful hope? "We don't come for conquest or control," I began. It was true. Our own messy history of greed and war was no secret. But humility had shaped us. Being the underdog left its mark. "We propose collaboration. You hold vast resources, ancient knowledge, technologies we barely comprehend. We," I spread my hands wide, "offer something different, unpredictability. A spark." The silence that followed wasn't contemptuous. It was measured. A being of delicate limbs, an Avon from Polaris Prime, tilted forward, its musical voice curious. "What kind of collaboration?" "Everything," I said, a surge of daring steadying my voice. "Trade routes. Let us hunt the loopholes no one else considers. Scientific deadlocks. Let us pitch the ideas too absurd to ignore. Even your vaunted games," I allowed myself a grin, "could benefit from a taste of human chaos." A wave of agitated hisses rippled through the chamber. Change, especially the unpredictable kind, was unwelcome. Yet I saw it, a flicker of curiosity in alien eyes. From the reptilian delegates, a deep voice rumbled. "Then a demonstration is required." My pulse quickened. One chance. One test to prove we weren't a fluke, that our victory meant something more. And deep inside, I burned to show it was never about winning or losing. It was about proving that differences, even awkward, uncomfortable ones, could forge new paths. At last, the head counselor, weary of arguments or perhaps eager to control the threat by directing it, delivered the judgment. "You will be given a task," he declared, voice echoing. "One deemed unsolvable." "Name it," I replied, steady despite the storm in my chest. "The enigma of the Void Drifters." A collective gasp rippled through the chamber. The Void Drifters, specter-like wanderers at the rim of known space. Legend spoke of technology centuries beyond the brightest civilizations, yet every attempt to reach them had ended in failure. Ships lost without trace. Signals silenced. They remained a riddle cloaked in isolation, guarding secrets none could breach. It was a perfect trial, a stage tailored to highlight the futility of human effort against the immensity of the void. They wanted us to fail spectacularly, yet I felt no fear. There was a fire inside me since the games, a volatile blend of stubborn defiance and reckless exhilaration. "We accept your challenge," I declared. A faint flicker crossed the head counselor's eyes. Surprise, maybe even amusement. Either way, it meant one thing: we had their attention. The terms were stark, merciless in their simplicity. Humans had one standard cycle to crack the mystery of the void drifters, to establish true contact and glean even a fragment of their technology. Success would grant us an open door to unimaginable knowledge and a reluctant respect from the galaxy's elite. Failure would brand us forever as clumsy interlopers, fools who stumbled into luck but never deserved a seat among the stars. Back on Earth, chaos turned to preparation. Scientists, linguists, and tacticians from every nation were rushed into a fortified underground facility. I was given full command of this ragtag think tank, our sharpest minds, all aimed at the impossible task of bridging the chasm between humanity and a species that had chosen isolation. We began tearing apart every shred of data on the void drifters. Their trajectories appeared random, invisible to traditional scanners. Their signals defied decoding, a frustrating stew of static and codes without pattern. Worse, every starship that dared approach their realm returned crippled, systems fried, as though repelled by an unseen wall before ever glimpsing the elusive wanderers. "They're not just advanced," Emily muttered, fingers dancing across a holographic projection of drifter space. "They're operating on an entirely different level." The breakthrough came from Jake. He wasn't combing reports or running simulations. He was tinkering with a fragment of alien salvage from a failed expedition. "They don't want to be found, right?" he mused, turning the device in his hands. "But what if they're not hiding at all? What if they're out of phase, existing just a heartbeat outside normal spacetime?" That spark lit the room. The physicists, at first dismissive, began re-examining every record of ships vanishing. It was a gamble, an ex-linebacker's intuition masquerading as science. But with the deadline looming, that gamble was all we had. We stripped down a small exploration pod, retrofitting it with frequency scramblers, subspace distortion rigs, and, at Jake's insistence, an amplified resonance emitter built to his sonic specifications. And I went myself. The responsibility weighed heavy as the pod broke Earth's atmosphere. The journey was a blur of flashing lights and warping gravity, alarms screaming at every twist. Then silence. Nothing. The stillness of a void so complete it pressed against my skull. Closing my eyes, I summoned Jake's roar from memory and unleashed it into the emptiness. Once. A third time. Flicker. A distortion on the sensors. Then, like a mirage sharpening into reality, a vessel emerged. Sleek, alive, impossibly alien. The void drifters. Last contact. The pod shuddered violently, caught in an unseen grip. Panic surged, but beneath it, a fierce determination steadied me. We had done it. We had pierced the veil, not with superior science or towering fleets, but with a chorus of chaos. Jake's primal yell, Emily's desperate insight, and humanity's most defining trait, our ability to make the impossible real.